Tom Cruise is too old for more Jack Reacher movies, declares franchise creator Jack Reacher. Author Lee Child claims Tom Cruise is too old to star in action movies. This comes just a little over a year after the director claimed Cruise was too short to play Jack Reacher on the big screen. Cruise recently starred in Mission: Impossible – Fallout, which went on to earn $787 million worldwide and became the highest-grossing installment in the franchise's long history. So there may be more than a few people who disagree with Child's thoughts on Cruise's age and acting in action movies. Jack Reacher is receiving the reboot treatment without Tom Cruise. The actor previously starred in 2012's Jack Reacher and the 2016 sequel Jack Reacher: Never Go Back, with Christopher McQuarrie and Edward Zwick directing, respectively. Neither of the movies were gigantic box office smashes, so the reboot idea started to get tossed around. Cruise was apparently not too happy about the news. Lee Child says Cruise was reluctant. He had his own investment in it. He was going to argue against it. It sounds extremely patronizing, but I think it's good for him. Child went on and had this to say about Cruise. Tom Cruise still performs his own stunts, and 57 years old isn't really all that old. Cruise, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, takes care of himself and can outperform many people half of his age. It really seems that the actor and Lee Child have some kind of beef from working together on the first Jack Reacher movies. Just last year, when the Jack Reacher reboot idea was officially announced, Lee Child said they were going to recast Tom Cruise because he was too short to play the part. The size of Reacher is really important, and it's a big component of who he is, says Child. And Cruise, for all his talent, didn't have that physicality. While Child says he loved working with Cruise and compliments his acting, it really seems like he has something against him from everything he has said publicly. Tom Cruise isn't giving up the action genre anytime soon. He has the 7th and 8th Mission: Impossible movies on the way, which will shoot back to back. Christopher McQuarrie is back in the director's chair for both installments. If that wasn't enough, Cruise also has the upcoming highly anticipated sequel Top Gun: Maverick hitting theaters next summer. While Cruise may not be giving up the action movies, Lee Child thinks it's time, though it's unclear if anybody is really listening to that advice. The interview with Lee Child was originally conducted by Independent UK. The name Jack Reacher evokes a specific image in the minds of fans: a towering, intimidating figure with a calm yet brutal demeanor, a man who thrives in situations where others would falter. Created by author Lee Child, Reacher is a drifter, former military police officer, and all-around problem solver whose sharp instincts and imposing stature make him a unique force of justice. When the time came to adapt Child's successful book series into films, many expected an actor who fit the physical and psychological traits of the character. Instead, Hollywood turned to Tom Cruise, a move that ignited debates from the very beginning. For over a decade, Cruise was the face of Reacher in two action-packed films, Jack Reacher 2012 and Jack Reacher: Never Go Back 2016. Despite mixed reactions from fans, the films performed reasonably well, with Cruise bringing his trademark intensity and charisma to the role. But now, the franchise's creator, Lee Child, has declared that Tom Cruise is too old to continue as Jack Reacher, and the series is moving in a new direction. A miscast from the start? From the outset, fans of the book series had their reservations about Tom Cruise portraying Reacher. Standing at 5'7", Cruise doesn't exactly match the imposing physicality described in Child's novels, where Reacher is a hulking 6'5" with hands the size of dinner plates. Reacher's size and presence are integral to how he navigates the world, often using sheer intimidation to de-escalate conflicts or, when necessary, overpower his enemies with brutal efficiency. Lee Child himself initially defended Cruise's casting, pointing to the actor's box office clout and undeniable screen presence. Cruise is a star whose name alone guarantees a certain level of commercial success, and his commitment to physical stunts and action sequences is well documented. Still, Child admitted that Cruise's physicality, or lack thereof, remained a sticking point for fans. "I really enjoyed working with Tom, but ultimately, the readers were right," Child later reflected in interviews. Jack Reacher's physical size is a huge part of who he is. It's an existential thing. People look at him and think, "I'm not going to mess with this guy," and Cruise, for all his talent, just didn't have that. Now, nearly a decade since Cruise first donned the role, it's not just his size that's being questioned. Age has also become a factor. At 61, Cruise is still an action star, performing high-octane stunts in the Mission Impossible franchise, but the demands of playing Reacher, an enigmatic drifter constantly on the move and involved in brutal hand-to-hand combat, may no longer align with Cruise's advancing years. The rise of a new Reacher in 2022, Amazon released a new television series adaptation of Jack Reacher, simply titled Reacher. This version of the character was played by Alan Ritchson, a relatively lesser-known actor at the time, but one who fit the physical description of the character almost perfectly. Ritchson stands at 6'2" and brings a level of physicality and raw energy to the role that fans had long craved. He is believable as the unstoppable force that Child envisioned, a man whose presence alone can silence a room. The television series, based on Killing Floor, the first Reacher novel, was a hit with both critics and audiences. Ritchson's portrayal was widely praised for capturing not only Reacher's physicality, but also the character's intelligence, dry wit, and moral code. It was the kind of adaptation that longtime fans of the books had been waiting for, and it immediately cast a shadow over the Cruise films. Lee Child, who serves as an executive producer on the show, has been vocal about his approval of Ritchson's casting and performance. In interviews, Child has suggested that the move to television allows for a deeper exploration of the character, something that was harder to achieve within the constraints of a 2-hour movie. "Alan Ritchson is closer to the Reacher I envisioned," Child said in a recent interview. "He's got the size, the attitude, and the ability to bring a different layer to the character. He's younger, more physically aligned with the character from the books, and I think audiences are responding to that in a big way." Why Cruise may be too old now age in Hollywood is often a tricky subject, especially when it comes to action stars. Tom Cruise has defied expectations for years, performing daring stunts that would intimidate actors half his age. His commitment to his craft is undeniable, and his longevity as an action hero has been one of the industry's marvels. However, even Cruise has his limits. The physical toll of playing Jack Reacher, who engages in brutal fight sequences, foot chases, and demanding action set pieces, may now be too high for Cruise, who has other franchises like Mission Impossible to manage. It's not just about being fit enough to perform the stunts, but about embodying a younger, more vigorous version of the character. Lee Child has pointed out that Reacher in the books is typically portrayed as being in his mid-30s to early 40s. While Cruise has certainly maintained his physical fitness, even his most ardent fans must acknowledge that he no longer looks like the grizzled, battle-hardened Reacher of Child's novels. Aging action stars can sometimes pull off these roles, but often the suspension of disbelief becomes more difficult, especially for a character like Reacher who is so defined by his physicality. "The character of Reacher is always on the move, always ready for a fight," Child noted. At some point, you have to recognize that an actor's age plays a role in how believable that is on screen. I think Tom has done an incredible job with Reacher, but there's a time when you have to pass the torch. The future of the franchise, with the success of the Reacher TV series, it seems that the future of the franchise is no longer tied to Cruise. Alan Ritchson has been praised as a worthy successor, and the show's success signals that audiences are ready for a new chapter in the Reacher saga, one that stays closer to the source material in both tone and characterization.